Dear respected Thay, dear Sister Chan Duc, dear most venerable monks and nuns, dear brothers, dear sisters, dear community, dear beloved community, this is a very happy moment. Today is our first day of coming together as the Fourfold Sangha after 2 years. We are in our retreat. Now we have a path. We have nothing more to fear. We are honoring our teacher Thay and celebrating 40 years of Plum Village. We shall begin today by practicing compassion. Compassion begins from within each and every one of us. We all have the capacity to understand ourselves and to understand others. And thanks to this understanding, compassion is born. We first will offer ourselves this compassion, this love, this kindness, this joy, this inclusiveness. The teachings of the Buddha and the teachings of Thay is always inviting us to come back to ourselves and to identify and recognize what is happening inside of us in this very here and now. And we have to have the courage to accept and embrace what manifests in us. So allow ourselves to be present. Be present for ourselves and be present for this community. This community is the manifestation of our teacher, of Thay. Even though he is physically not here, but with each breath, we can feel him very alive in this very moment. We don't have to look very far. He's always present. We just need mindfulness, awareness, and we can be in touch with his legacy, the path he has offered to all of us. We are his beautiful continuation. And I know Thay is smiling, a deep smile of continuation. When we come home to ourselves, we may recognize that we still have some wounds, some pain, some suffering. Maybe we still need to grieve. There is still sadness. We may still be tender. This is the space to invite our compassion, to embrace our suffering. This is the first noble truth of Buddhism, the Buddha has taught us. Recognizing our suffering, calling it by its true name, and we smile to it. And we also let the Sangha, our brothers, our sisters, sitting in front of us, beside us, behind us, and we allow their collective energy of mindfulness to also help us embrace our wounds and our suffering. By practicing like this, transformation is allowed, and our well-being has a chance to manifest. If our suffering is too big and we feel we don't have the capacity to hold it by ourselves, we can say, "Dear Sangha, please embrace me. Please embrace my wound, my suffering." And you surrender yourself to this collective energy. And if you truly do surrender and open yourself, you will be able to embrace your pain, your grief. And if you need to cry, you can mindfully cry. Tears are tears of love and tears of transformation. And as we practice compassion, we also bring this love and this energy of mindfulness, and we can offer to someone who is very dear to us. Maybe our partner, our parents, our ancestor, someone who is very close to us and may not be here, but we know they can use a little bit of this peace and stability, and we invoke their name and we offer this compassion towards them. Even if our parents, our ancestors are not alive, but we feel like we still need to send them our compassion and our love, we can also do this in this very moment, because we are their continuation. So by practicing for them, they have a chance to transform. And as a Sangha, a collective Sangha, we can also touch the suffering that is in the world in this very moment. We know there is natural destruction, there is war, there is discrimination, there's a lot of pain and suffering. And as a collective community, we can also send this love, this compassion, this energy to a part of the world that we feel connected to. And by practicing like this, peace is in oneself, and then peace will also be in the world. Because peace is not outside. Peace has to begin within. This is the practice of compassion, a very deep and profound practice. When the monks and the nuns, we chant the name of valokiteshvara. It is not a performance, but it is a practice. Valokiteshvara is someone who has practiced deep understanding, who has boundless love, is always ready to be present and to listen deeply. And we all have Avalokiteshvara in us. So we can also learn to listen to ourselves, listen to our loved ones, and listen to the world. And by this practice, we are engaging ourselves in the present moment. We are engaging as an offering to the world in this practice. And as a collective community, we will generate a wholesome and strong energy. And we can offer this as a gift to our teacher, a gift to ourselves, and also a gift to the world. So please, dear Sangha, let us sit comfortably, aware of our breathing, aware of our posture. Relax our body. Allow Avalokiteshvara inside of us to be present. And as we listen to the chant, we listen to ourselves. We listen to our loved ones. And we listen to the world. And we offer this compassion to ourselves, our loved ones, and to the world. We'd like to invite the brothers and the sisters to stand up.
Yeah, good morning, dear Sangha. Please stretch a little bit. Two, three. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in, and breathing out, I know. As the in-breath goes deep, the out-breath goes slow. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I feel at ease. Breathing in, I smile. Breathing out, I release. Dwelling in the present moment. This is the most wonderful moment. Dear Sangha, today is the 5th of June in the year 2022. We are in the Lower Hamlet on the second day, the third day, I don't know. I'm sorry, the third day of our retreat. You arrived on the 3rd. That was the first day. And today is the 5th. Yeah. Let's listen to a sound of the bell together so that we can flow together as one river. We may ask the question, dear Thay, where are you now? And Thay will say to us, I have not gone anywhere. In 2004, in the autumn of 2004, Thay summed up the path of Plum Village in nine Vietnamese words. Summed up the path of Plum Village, the path that we all enjoy, in 9 Vietnamese words. And we can do it in English, I think, in 8 words. So today we will look a little bit at these 8 words. And we know that the subject of our 2 weeks together is now we have a path. We have no more to fear. So we want to look at what our path is. The path that has been mapped out for us, has been laid down for us by Thay and by the Sangha. And we know that the first of the 5 faculties and the first of the 5 powers is something called faith. So we're used to the word faith in the West, in Christianity. But the word faith in Buddhism may be a little bit different. The word faith means we have confidence. We have confidence because we have experienced that the path is real and that the path is our way. There's no other way. And so our faith is based in our experience. It's not based on a belief. I think it's time that we wrote these 8 words on the board. Would you be kind enough to sing for me? I have arrived, I am home. The Dharma sharing family that I was part of yesterday, many people said that coming back to Plum Village, they felt at home. They felt they had arrived. They were at home. We were very happy to hear that. And maybe in the past, they had also been to Plum Village, and they had also felt, I have arrived, I am at home. But we know that we will not always be in Plum Village. And we want to be able to carry the path with us so that we can arrive and be at home wherever we are, whatever situation we are in. And then we will know that we have no more need to fear. So these 2 weeks while you are in Plum Village, you have a chance to deepen your practice of I have arrived, I am home. Maybe on the 3rd day or the 4th day, it won't be so lovely as you felt it was on the 1st day. And that is a real chance for you to practice. I have arrived, I am at home. It's still my home. Even though somebody said something that jarred a little bit with me, I can still arrive in spite of that. So we can strengthen our practice of I have arrived, I am at home, at every moment. Every time we take a step, we can feel, yes, this is my point of arrival. I don't need to run to the future. I don't need to go back to the past. I'm really here. And then when we take another step, I am at home. This is my home. Wherever I am on Mother Earth, this is my home. Home, arrived. Home, arrived. And I don't need to go anywhere in the future, nor do I need to go back into the past, because my footstep, it holds me to the earth in the present moment. So the practice of arriving, the practice of being at home, is the same as the practice of dwelling peacefully in the present moment. Whatever is happening in the present moment, to be able to dwell there, we need our step and we need our breath. When you practice sitting meditation, you can use the poem, I have arrived, I am at home, in the here, in the now. I am solid, I am free. And you practice I have arrived with your in and your out breath until you feel you really have arrived. There is nowhere to go, nothing to do. And then you practice I am at home as long as you need to feel that this really is your home. Wherever you are is your home on planet Earth. Whatever is happening is your home. Your home is there. One time Thay said your home is like your portable You can carry it with you wherever you go. And after that, we practice in the here means this place where I am. And you have many ideas about the place where you are. Many signs, many marks to tell you about the place where you are. But that may not be the real place where you are. It's just an idea you have of the place where you are. Sometimes you look and you see the countryside. It looks very beautiful with the fields, but you also know that in those fields there are a lot of poisonous spray, a lot of chemicals. So sometimes we have an idea where we are, we don't exactly know where we are. One time Thay led a very beautiful meditation, and it said that the place where I am sitting now maybe 500,000 years ago, an awakened being was sitting there. And in all this time, this place where I am sitting, so many living beings have been born here. So many living beings have died here. And maybe in 5 million years' time, another awakened being will be sitting here. And that awakened being will meditate. 5 million years ago, there was somebody doing sitting meditation here who knew that we would be sitting here. So when we practice in the here, without really having any idea about what we mean by in the here, we can have a deep insight, like the insight Thay had. And then we practice in the now. In the now can also be an idea. William James, philosopher, he said that the present moment is like you're sitting on your horse, and behind you is the past, and in front of you is the future. But if the horse is moving along, well, is it the future or is it the past? Where is the now? Yeah. So when we practice in the now, we also drop our idea of what is now. But the Buddha taught us in the discourse on knowing the better way alone, đừng tìm về quá khứ mà. Do not pursue the past. Do not run into the future. The past has already gone. The future has not yet come. So just stay in that place which is not thinking about the past and not thinking about the future, and just enjoy being in that place, in the now, for as long as you can. And some moments in that now will have become the past, and you will have gone into the future, but you will feel that you're just staying in the eternal now. So when we practice, I have arrived, I am at home, in the here, in the now. I am solid, I am free. I am solid as a mountain. I'm not shakeable. I cannot be shaken. So that is an important part of your practice, your meditation. To be unshakable in the present moment. And I am free. I am free means I am not in a prison, because the past and the future can become like a prison. Sometimes we sing the song, breathing in, breathing out, and we sing, I am blooming as a flower, I am fresh, I am water reflecting, I am space, I am free. How do we sing that? And I feel there is space deep inside of me. Yeah. I am free, I am free, I am free. So normally we do something like this. I mean, like I'm a bird flying in the sky, a lot of space. And one time I saw Thay go like this. I am free, I am free, I am free. Yeah, so that is a different way of doing it. But the meaning of free here is that I have cut those fetters, those bonds of the past, and of the future, so that I am free of that prison. In the ultimate, I dwell. I can touch something called the ultimate dimension. So now it gets a little bit difficult. So I hope we can go together. We haven't talked about this yet, which we will do, which is not so difficult to talk about. But coming from here, we do go in a direction of some other very important teachings of Plum Village, important part of our path. So this normally we talk about as this arrived at home. We talk about as the first Dharma Seal of Plum Village. In 300 years' time, if people want to say, I belong to the Plum Village tradition, then they will practice this. This will be their path. And then the second one is go as a river. It's the same, 300 years' time. You want to say you're part of Plum Village, then you practice going as a river. So as a result of really being in the here, really being in the now, arrived and at home, you will have insight into the teaching of the Buddha, and that will be the third Dharma Seal, which is and the third Dharma Seal is the times, the 3 times past, present and future, into are, and the truths, which is the ultimate and the conventional truth, they into are, and the Four Noble Truths into are. So this we come back to. And then the fourth is this is very difficult to understand. We will come back to it. Yeah, we should have more talks about these. We will have more talks about these things to make them clear. So now we listen to the sound of the bell. So that sound of the bell is a very good introduction to the second Dharma Seal. Go as a river. We are all sitting here together, and when we hear the sound of the bell, we all stop thinking. We weren't talking, but if we were talking, we would stop talking, and we stopped moving. We just enjoy the sound of the bell together, and we all breathe together. And the Sangha did something which we call coming into phase. We just became one flowing body. And this Sangha body the Sangha body is Thay's life work. It is also the life work of the Buddha. In the time of Buddha Shakyamuni, one time Ananda came and said to the Buddha, good spiritual friends are half of the path of practice. And the Buddha said, no, Ananda, good spiritual friends are the whole of the practice. And that is why Thay devoted Thay's time to building Sangha. Because the Sangha is the only way that Thay can continue. And that is the most beautiful legacy that we have. And that legacy is everywhere on Mother Earth. You can find everywhere on Mother Earth. And that is our noble task, is to be able to build the Sangha, to continue the Sangha. So when we practice, that is the first thing we do. We contribute to the Sangha by our practice. I want to go as a river and not as a drop of water. And so we put ourselves in that river when we join the Sangha. And that is the teaching of the Buddha on non-self. And going as a river is a real practice, a daily practice. Taking refuge in the Sangha is a practice. And when we talk about a practice, we mean a training. And this means we have to train to be a drop in the Sangha, because that may not be our habit energy. There are so many things you can say about Sangha building. But a song is the best way. So now I have to ask my Vietnamese brothers and sisters to sing in Vietnamese. Giờ đây bên nhau, cùng nhau các tiếng hát, cáp sáng tí tất chúng ta có nhau. Giờ đây bên nhau, cùng nhau bước những bước vững chãi thích tu trên đất này. Biết không ta lòng duyên nhau, sống vui bên nhau tháng ngày. Okay, so now we will sing in English. In the here and now, we are singing together to light up the fact we have each other. In the here and now, we are walking together on our dearest Mother Earth. That we have each other brings us joy every day. So, in the here and now, that means that as a Sangha body, we have arrived, we are at home together. It's something we do together. We sing together. That is a wonderful way of letting go of our separate self when we sing like that. Just like when we recite the name of Avalokiteshvara, we all become one. So in Vietnamese it says, to light up the awareness that we have each other. We need to be aware how precious the presence of everyone in our Sangha is. However, they may not agree with us, or we may not have an affinity, but they are precious. In fact, if they don't agree with us and we don't have an affinity, they are more precious than someone who agrees with us and has an affinity with us. Because when two people have two different ideas, do any of you play bowls? Yeah, you have one ball. It's like one idea. And then you send another one to knock that ball, and you hope it'll put it in a hole, and you won't see it anymore. But it's not quite the same in the Sangha. There's one idea and the other idea come along and knocks it. But out of that, there comes something new, something different. In science, you call a bifurcation, a point, something new. So that is why we really need ideas to be different from each other. And in the 8th mindfulness training, we learn stick to your Sangha. If there is a conflict, we look deeply to see, do we have some part to play in that conflict? And then we do the practices of Plum Village, the beginning anew, in order to be able to mend what has become broken. We don't run away from the Sangha, we don't run away from the other members of our Sangha because something has become broken between us. And sometimes we think that the reason something is broken between us is something very rational, that we can explain, oh, it has something to do with how we use the money in the Sangha or something like that. But normally things become broken because of something emotional. And things are mended because of something emotional. That is our loving kindness and our compassion. We suffer because somebody said something or somebody acted in a way that we felt let us down. And that is an emotional thing. It's not a rational thing. And we need to look deeply to find out about our emotion. And then we can sit down and share together our emotions and know how to mend what has been broken. So that is a very important part of going as a river. And we have the tendency as human beings to want to have authority, to want to have a position. We feel that is part of ourself, the way we can take care of ourselves is to be in a certain position. And so sometimes we vie for, we compete for a certain position in the Sangha. That is also something emotional. It comes from our need to protect our separate self. But the wonderful thing about a Sangha is that it's there to help us realize non-self. Did I take 15 minutes yet on the Sangha? Not quite 15 minutes yet, huh? Oh, okay, good. I don't want, in the last Dhamma talk I gave, I ran out of time. So I asked the master at the bell, so please every 15 minutes give me a sound at the bell. Did you get that message? Twice. 2 more minutes. Yeah, and yeah, so that I don't run out of time. Yeah, sorry. And so you have time to do walking together on this. So now we better sing the second verse. Ya de ben yao gong yao ga ting hai tap sang yi được chúng ta có nhau. Ya de bên nhau cùng nhau bước những bước vững chãi tiếp thu trên đất này, đúng không? Khó khăn hay là ngăn nghi Nhau ben nhau thức thì. So that is the second verse. And it said that when there is suffering, we'll be there right away. So that is something wonderful about the Sangha. Sometimes you need to cry. You may cry because you are happy, or you may cry because you are sad. And in this song, it's suffering. You cry because you are sad. And if there is someone there to comfort you, then that is wonderful, when you cry. So that is a very human need, to cry and to be comforted. And maybe the reason why we cry is because we want to be comforted. Is what we did when we were children. So we say that when there is some difficulty, some misery, then we'll be there right away. And we see this very clearly in the Sangha. When somebody is in a difficult situation, in ill health, the Sangha will encircle that person and take care. And it's not only the monastic Sangha like that, but the lay Sanghas are like that. It is a big fortune to be in a lay Sangha from that point of view. Because if you fall sick and you're in the hospital, you will be sure to have Sangha members who come and visit you and bring you the practice and bring you comfort. That always happens in the local Sangha. When one member is sick, one member is dying, the other members will be there. And then the last verse. Sat vai thank you. Together we can build the future. Holding hands we help the world. So this means that on our own we cannot help the world. This morning together we sent the energy out into the world, the energy of compassion. It's very strong, it's very powerful. You can feel it reverberating all the way around the meditation hall. And that is something we can do together. But in order to do that together, we have to let go of our own opinions. We have to come to a consensus how we're going to help the world together. So I think we've already talked a little bit about how the three times, the past, the present and the future, they are not separated from each other. When you read the discourse on the better way to live alone, you will see that the Buddha says, don't pursue the past, don't pursue the past, do not run into the future. But afterwards, when the Buddha gives a longer description, the Buddha says that if you think how your body was in the past, and you are carried away by that, and you're not really there in the present moment anymore, then you are losing yourself in the past. You're in the prison of the past. But if you think how your body was in the past, and you're in the present moment, and it is helping you to have an insight, then you are not losing yourself in the past. You are using the past as a subject of meditation. So if I think about how my body was in the past, when I was a 5-year-old child, running around with a lot of energy, and then I recognize how my body is now, not running around and not a lot of energy, then I see that that 5-year-old child is still there. Because if that 5-year-old child had not been there, then this 73-year-old child, not child, but whatever it is, I don't dare say adult, would also not be there. So somehow we inter-are. And we inter-are also with the future, because the way I am now will make the future. And so that is a beautiful teaching, because it's a little bit like libre arbitre, a little bit like free will. Together we can build the future. That is because of how we are in the present moment. So we have a lot of freedom to make our future, whatever our past has been like, we can take a different route now. So that's about the interbeing of very briefly about the interbeing of the three times. And now we start to get a bit more difficult. So I don't know if we can do this. The truths inter-are. So I think the easier one is the Four Noble Truths. So one time the monks were sitting together having a Dharma discussion, and and one monk asked them, if you realize, if you see directly the first noble truth, the noble truth of interbeing, do you see the other three truths, that is the truth of the origin of the suffering, the cessation of the suffering, and the path that leads to the cessation? Do you see them at the same time? That was the question in the Dharma sharing. And then one monk, whose name was Gavampati, he said, in the presence of the Buddha, I heard these very words. If you see the first noble truth, then you see all the noble truths at the same time. So you don't have to go one by one. Huh? So remember, these are all teachings that Thay has transmitted to us and are part of our path. So if we go back to in the here and in the now, in the I have arrived, I am home, and you are practicing that in your sitting meditation or your walking meditation, or even your eating meditation. I forgot about eating meditation. I was practicing eating meditation and doing my best to arrive and at home with every mouthful. And then I took a mouthful of rice gruel, and I say, oh, Thay is in this rice gruel. And that just came up like an insight. Thay is in the rice gruel. Because maybe when I was Christian, we have Jesus in the bread. Huh? I don't know, but it came up in me like that. And then I had to reason, why is Thay in the rice gruel? And I saw very clearly that if there was no Thay, I would not be eating this rice gruel. I wouldn't have any rice gruel to eat, or if I did, it wouldn't come from Thay. But because Thay worked, or not worked, but Thay lived in order to build the Plum Village Sangha, which I'm a member of, that is why I have this rice gruel. And I feel very grateful for that. So we can also see the three times into R when we dwell in the present moment when we are eating. And also, I would not have the practice to dwell in the present moment when I'm eating if it wasn't for Thay. So Thay must be there. So now we come to the truths, into the Four Noble Truths. Sometimes when you practice I have arrived, I am home, in the here, in the now, you don't feel so well. You have pain in your body, or you have some difficulty. And the thing is, in Plum Village, we don't run away from that. We don't run away from our difficulty. That is the first noble truth. We accept it as it is. And we stay in the here and in the now with the difficulty, with the pain, with the physical pain. We stay with it. And when we stay with it like that, we see where it comes from. And we have freedom. Although we have pain, we have freedom. And so that is another important teaching of Plum Village, which goes with the truths into R. Which is the teaching of no mud, no lotus. Or, in other words, the klesha, the afflictions, are the awakening. The afflictions are the awakening. So the awakening is the third noble truth of the end of suffering. and the path that leads to the end of suffering, the fourth noble truth. And the klesha is the first and the second noble truth. But they inter-are, because when we really contemplate and look deeply into the klesha, we already see the way out. So don't think that you have the mud first and then you have the lotus second, because that isn't really inter-are. That is two separate things. But inter-are means you have the mud and the lotus at the same time. You have the klesha and the bodhi at the same time. So that is the Four Noble Truths. And then we have to come to the two truths. Because when Thay say the truths, he means the Four Noble Truths and the two truths. And the two truths are the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth and the conventional truth. Language is like a convention that we have. We agree with each other that this is I and that is you. And in order to communicate as human beings, in order to go as a river, we have to use that conventional language. We cannot avoid it. But the conventional language we use, it can obscure or cover up the ultimate truth. So we have to be able to take away that covering, to see the ultimate truth. And so the Buddha always taught us two truths. And the most famous teaching of the two truths in the Udana, chapter 8, is monks, there is no birth, no death, we say no being, no non-being. And if there were not this no birth and no death, there would be no way out for birth and death. So the birth and the death are the conventional truth. You need a birth certificate, you need or somebody, not you maybe, but somebody will need your death certificate. And you need, in the world, that is a convention. But if you are caught in that convention, then you suffer a lot. Because you think that when I die, I'm not there anymore, or when you die, you're not there anymore. So we need to uncover the reality of birth and death, and then we see no birth and no death. So that is one way of talking about the ultimate and the conventional. And then we have teachings in Buddhism, which in Plum Village we all accept, like the Dharma Seals of impermanence, no self, and nirvana. So we have the teaching of impermanence. This means that you are caught in the idea that things are permanent. So the Buddha has to teach you about impermanence, so you're not caught in that anymore. And then you have the teaching on self. And you believe you are a real separate self. And then the Buddha come along and tell you you're not a separate self. So the teaching on impermanence is like a medicine to help you not be caught in permanence. And the teaching on non-self is a medicine so you don't get caught in self. But you only take medicine when you are sick. Huh? You don't take medicine when you are well. So that is, we have to be careful. So in conventional way we say, I am impermanent, you are impermanent, and I am not a separate self. But when we say things like that, we have an I who's impermanent. But if it is impermanent, it cannot be I, because I is something that when I'm 5 years old, I'm 73 years old, it's the same I. So that is not impermanent. So to say I am impermanent is a bit of a contradiction. That is, I am impermanent is the conventional truth. I am not a separate self is the conventional truth. But there is something beyond that, which is the ultimate truth. And that is something like, when we go beyond words, we say non-self is, a teaching is true. But there is, in a sense, there is a middle way between non-self and self. And that is what is the ultimate dimension. But it doesn't have a name. We are lucky that we have a name for the middle way between being and non-being, which is interbeing, which is given to us by Thay, that word. But between self and non-self, we don't have a word yet. Maybe it's also interbeing. But when you look deeply and you touch the ultimate truth, you don't have words to describe it. Yeah. But it just means you're not caught in views. Because philosophers used to come to the Buddha and ask, Lord Buddha, is there a self? And the Buddha was silent. And then they asked, oh, you mean there's no self? And the Buddha was silent. And they say, why don't you answer? And even Ananda said, why don't you answer? And the Buddha said, those things are undeclared. Avyakrita. I cannot declare those things. Because if I say there is no self, you will be caught in that. If I say there is self, you will be caught in that. So this is the teaching of the two truths, they inter-are. Check. Head now. The sound of the bell. So when we talk about ripening, something is ripe, you think of a fruit as ripening on the tree. And we ask what we're talking about here. We're not talking about tangerines. We are talking about karma. Karma means action. So everything we think everything we speak, everything we do with our body, they all are action. And when anything we think, speak or do, it goes out into the world. But it also goes back into us. And it has a continuation. And so whatever is happening to us, whatever we are feeling in the present moment, that is a continuation of our actions. And sometimes when we listen to the teachings on karma, we have an idea that during our lifetime we will do good things and bad things, and then when we die we will either go to heaven or go to hell or go somewhere else. And that means that we have the idea that we have to wait till we die for our actions to ripen. But according to the teaching of the Buddha and of Plum Village, our actions are ripening in every moment. So we have to be aware, very aware of what we are doing. The most difficult thing about the teaching of the Buddha, as far as karma is concerned, is there is not a soul, and there is not a consciousness that continues from lifetime to lifetime. And some of the disciples of the Buddha believed that our consciousness was like a soul. And then we die and our consciousness continues in another body or something like that. And that when our consciousness continues, it will be able to either be punished or to have the happiness of the actions that it did in the past life. But in the teaching of Buddha, there is no a separate self. There is no soul, and there is no consciousness that doesn't interbe. That is not into is, not into is. Consciousness always into is. It's either into is with the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or into is with the body. And without those things, that consciousness cannot be there. So consciousness is arising in every moment due to causes and conditions. And it's not something that continues as a separate self. So if I say that last week I said something very unkind to you, and this week you say something very unkind to me, and then I say, well, that is my karma, because it is I'm being paid back. It's as if the I of last week was the same as of the I now. And it's not the same, because everything is impermanent. So many cells have died and new cells been born. So many consciousness moments have died and been born. So one time the Buddha asked his disciples, how long does life last before you're born again? And one monk said 100 years. And another monk said something like, as long as it takes to eat a meal. And then the Buddha said, no. And then another monk said, with every in-breath and out-breath, you are born again. It's a new life. So that is the teaching of momentary ripening, and it's very liberating, because we can act in a certain way, and we can bring those fruits into the world, and especially not just for ourselves, because karma is also collective karma. And so when we say something compassionate, think something compassionate, it's not just for a separate self, but it is for the collective. And if we come across some difficulty, it's the same. You may say, "Oh, I did something very bad in my past life, and that is why I have this difficulty." But the Buddha said it's not like that. The difficulties come because of the causes and conditions, and your actions are also part of those causes and conditions. The Vimalakirti, that famous layman, a fictitious layman, said, because the world is sick, I am sick, and when the world is well, I shall become well. And Thay added something, and Thay said, when I am well, the world becomes well. So it's up to us. Yes, thank you for listening, dear Sangha.